I know it's late. It's late because we were called into session at 12 o'clock, and a bill came to the floor at 6 p.m. That's why it's late. But we should have an opportunity to speak about what's happening here for real. You know, I listened to the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Democrat in the majority, stand there and chastise the Republican Party for what's happening here today. All I've got to say to that is, nice try. Nice try. And I know in a place that doesn't suffer for lack of theater, we often hear a lot of pontificating and politicking. But I've got to tell you, for me, that was about the most disingenuous, shocking, and hypocritical statement that I've heard on this floor. And I know there are more cameras here than usual. So let me tell you this. The people on the other side of those cameras across this state won't be fooled. They will not be fooled. I mean, the chairman of the Finance Committee is blaming us for what's happening here this evening. That reminds me of the guy that walks in the room and turns off the lights and then chastises the people sitting in the room for sitting in darkness. I heard on the radio over the weekend, one of the pundits said, government's going to shut down if they don't pass the emergency bill. Well, let's analyze that. Why do we have an emergency bill? Because you created an emergency. You created it by ignoring your responsibility. You talk about our responsibility by ignoring your responsibility to have an on-time budget April 1st. To have, as a matter of law, conference committees so that the public might see what it is that you see or don't see in your crystal ball. We have an emergency because we don't have a budget. Don't blame us. I mean, the excuses I've heard tonight and over the last few weeks, my favorite a couple of weeks ago was that we don't have a budget because of some vote Senator DeFrancisco took in 1997. There's a show on television, Mythbusters. I mean, they could do a week-long special on some of the things that we hear from your party concerning why we have a late budget. Don't blame us, please. The people will not be fooled. They know why we don't have a budget 74 days late. They know it's because you have been unable to put a budget on the floor. Because you, who are in leadership, for whatever reason, have been unable to lead. So let me dispel one myth right off the bat here. You heard the chair of the Senate Finance Committee say, these guys are going to shut down government. Government's not going to be shut down. It's a myth. It's myth number one. Myth number two, somehow the budget is magically going to come together without leadership. That is not possible. We need leadership. You're in the majority, lead. So, if you don't want government to shut down, put a budget on the floor. Lead. Make the tough choices. There's an old expression that says lead or get out of the way. Lead or get out of the way. And let's get a budget passed 74 days overdue. We could do it tomorrow. There's no reason for people to go home. There's no reason for anyone in this room to do anything but work on getting a budget done. So I'm going to vote no. And I voted for the first 4 or 5 because my friends across the aisle said we need more time. It's a difficult year. And I voted for the first 4 or 5. But I can't any longer vote yes on these extenders because they've become nothing more than an excuse not to pass a budget. And we've got plenty of excuses. The people back home should not be played with any longer. We need a budget, Mr. President, and I'll vote no.